so that way we can have it on the replay. One of the common things I've been seeing a lot of people um, not take into account is they underestimate how much strategic thinking plays a part in real estate. And oftentimes, without strategic thinking, they run into situations where they get burnt out, they feel stuck, they feel like they're hitting a ceiling. And oftentimes, it's because a lot of people haven't put into perspective a lot of the common things that are said in the real estate space, or they don't take certain things into account. So that's some of the things that I want to kind of talk over today from, a basic foundational standpoint, and then obviously build up from a little bit more advanced standpoint as well too. Okay. So I did have a PowerPoint slide put together, but I'm gonna just read it off just because it's not in the layout that I wanted to. Okay. So let me go ahead and start off with this. So obviously, real estate starts and stops with lead generation. Okay. This is one area where I see a lot of people kind of overcomplicate and they try to bounce around in many different marketing channels without being consistent in one long enough to see results. Okay. And then another thing I kind of see people not take into account is the cost associated with each marketing channel. Okay. So I'm starting off with the most cost effective, but also time consuming, especially if you're doing it yourself. Okay. Which is cold calling SMS. That's going to be by far the most cost effective, but take into account it's going to be very time consuming, right? Especially if you don't have a big budget to delegate, it is very time consuming to sit there and get told no for 4 or 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day if you're doing it full time. But it's a very mentally tough thing to stay consistent at, which is why some people go the route of hiring VAs. You see a lot of people say, oh, just get a VA to do it. What they don't take into account is you also have to manage the VAs, clocking in, clocking out. If they call in sick, how are you assessing it? How well they're performing on your behalf, right? So cold calling, texting, most cost effective. But if you're doing it yourself, it's time consuming. And the fact that it's time consuming is the number one thing that allows people to not stay consistent at it. Does that make sense? If it is within the budget to delegate, you have to make sure that you're very intentional about making sure what does success look like if you are delegating to a VA, right? Because if you're delegating it to a VA, another thing most people don't take into account is the amount of training that you have to provide this VA, coaching, supervision, and paying for the tools that are needed in order to go ahead and have them execute. Does that make sense so far? Of course, obviously, this group is sponsored by Lead Mining Pro. So if it is within the budget for you guys to go ahead and delegate and not want to have to worry about training, paying for the extra tools, make sure you just go ahead, speak with Nick. He can come up with a custom package for you guys. And then that way you can obviously delegate the time consuming part of the business, which is lead generation, and then only focus on the inbound leads that are coming in. Okay. Another marketing channel that's very popular is I'm gonna combine these two just because they go hand in hand, right? Or they're opposite sides of the coin. Same thing with cold calling and SMS, in my opinion. The next marketing channel or the next tier of marketing channel is PPC, PPL, and mailers. Okay. PPC is pay per click, PPL is pay per lead. And then obviously mailers, everyone's familiar with mailers. These are a higher investment. They require more capital for you to start. However, they do give you a business model where inbound leads can come to you. Make sense? So you're paying more money for leads, but you're more so creating a business model where people are coming to you, raising their hand and say, "Hey, I'm interested in possibly getting an offer." Okay. And then now you just speak to people whenever they say, "Hey, I'm ready to go. This is what I want." And then you have more control of that aspect from there. Okay. With no matter what PPC or PPL model you decide to go with, there are tons of them out there. But you definitely want to find, you're gonna hear me say a lot of this over the course of all of my talking points. make sure it's within your budget. Do not treat any of these marketing channels as if it's a scratch off ticket and spend your last, amount of dollars trying to hope that you get a deal from it. Because regardless of how much money or time you spend on any of these marketing channels, getting the deal is just the beginning of the battle. You still have to sell the deal in order for it to make money. And we're going to talk about that after I go over these marketing channels. Make sense? All right. So PPC mailers, higher investment, but you have more control over your time because now you're only speaking to people that raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'm interested in selling." And then it's a matter of just convenience for you. So you're paying more money for leads to come into your ecosystem, CRM, calendar, whatever you want to set it up to be. And then you're just working the interested leads. Okay. The last part, this is a very underutilized marketing channel, but I emphasize heavily on this one. It's also cost effective, but it's also very time consuming, and it's referrals and word of mouth. If you are in real estate, you do not want to be a secret investor, secret agent, secret wholesaler. You have to let your inner circle, your sphere of influence, people that know, like, and already trust you, you have to be very vocal about what it is that you're doing so they can send opportunities your way. Okay. So, for example, anybody, if you go into the family cookout and the topic of conversation comes up, anything having to do with real estate, the first thing that needs to come out of their mouth is, okay, you know what? Go to talk to Carla, talk to Kayla, talk to Gene, talk to Jay, talk to Wig, right? You have to be the go-to person in your sphere of influence whenever anything about real estate comes up in the topic of conversation. And then now, very similar to PPC and mailers and all of that good stuff, that is a form of inbound leads that you do not have to pay for. And this requires the least resistance because these people are referring someone to you that is already vouching that they know, like, and trust you. Those are the easiest situations to kind of be in just for the simple fact that you don't necessarily have to go through any sales pitch. You don't necessarily have to overcome all of the other objections as you would if you were doing cold calling and SMS. Make sense? So there's other marketing channels, but I want to focus on these three ones just because of the simple fact of these are the most achievable marketing channels that you can do as long as you budget for them. Does that make sense? Referrals, you don't have to spend money to tell people, hey, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is how I can help, right? PPC, direct mail, cold calling, SMS, you just have to figure out, does my schedule allow for me to be available to talk to these people? Or do I want to invest money and then have people come on my calendar or come in to speak with me whenever I feel like it? Right. We're about to get to the MLS in a second, Gene. Um, but right now we're just going over marketing channels for how to generate leads. Okay. So regardless of which marketing channel fits within your budget, I would recommend pick one or two marketing channels to stay consistent at. Do not waver from whatever marketing channel you pick and stick to it until you perfect getting good results. You have to focus on them, execute, refine the process of how you're generating leads through whatever marketing channels you're picking, and then go ahead and repeat, rinse and repeat. Okay. So those are the most achievable ways to get deals, and that's what you want to focus on. Where I see a lot of people go wrong is they want to do cold calling one week, then they want to do SMS another week, then they want to do mailers, they want to do a whole, they bounce around, right? And they're not getting consistent lead gen is because they're not focusing on one particular channel and they're not focusing on how to perfect a routine of converting those leads that are generated from whatever channel they pick and then converting those leads into contracts. Make sense? Okay. So once you start generating leads at whatever marketing channel you decide, now here's where the real work comes in at. Now it's a matter of selling the deal and getting maximum exposure for it in order for you to find a buyer, get to the title company, and then get your assignment fee or your double closing fee closed. But that you cannot get there until you perfect the lead generation and the conversion channel. Does that make sense? So this second half that we're about to dive into, none of this is going to work if this first part is not solidified. Make sense? Before we continue, anyone have any questions about anything that we just went over? Marketing channels, tips or tricks, anything you guys have been experiencing dealing with any one of these marketing channels, cold calling, SMS, PPC, referrals, stuff like that.
A quick question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, when you talked about using Lead Mining Pro,
Hmm.
or is that something that should be used after you do the cold calling and SMS, or could that be, you know where I'm going with this? If you do the cold calling yourself, so you can get a feel for it, so you'll know how
Hmm.
it works, then could you graduate to working with Lead Mining Pro?
I think you can do a mixture of both. So, for
Okay.
example, like if you do it yourself and then you realize you get to, because I've gotten to this point as well too. I don't want to do the cold call. I don't want to. I don't want to sit down. And it's okay to say that. I'm not judging anyone because I was in that same boat, and sometimes I still do be in that same boat where I don't want
Mhm.
to sit down for 2, 3 hours and either
Mhm.
get cussed out or get hang up on for 2, 3 hours straight.
Mhm.
It is. I do want to acknowledge that it is mentally tough to wake up, even for the VAs that do it. It is mentally tough to wake up in the morning and say, "I can't wait to cold call today. I can't wait to get on this dollar. Hey, how you?" These are very mentally tough to stay consistent at that. Okay. So let's just start there. So if you do have the bandwidth to wake up in the morning and be enthusiastic of doing it, you don't have to delegate it to nobody. But if we keeping it a buck, I don't know how many people can relate. I don't know if I'm talking to I don't know if I'm preaching to the choir or if I'm saying something new, but it is very difficult to wake up. I would argue that it's more difficult to wake up and be excited to cold call than it is to go and be excited to go to the gym. I probably dread cold calling just as much as I dread leg day. I know it's important. I know it's essential. I don't need to skip leg day, but good God Almighty, when I have leg day, I am like, damn, bro, I do not want to do these sets right now. And I have that same feeling about cold calling if I'm just keeping it a buck. So I would say do it, but also do it yourself until you realize, all right, I'd rather just pay someone to deal with this headache and be consistent at it as opposed to me doing it myself, telling myself I'm going to do it, and then, do whatever because that's not going to help with consistency. So I would revert to doing it to yourself if you know up front, and this is again being honest, I'm not gonna do this for a month straight and be consistent. But if you have that willpower and you got that drive, I would go ahead and knock it out. Jay said, I will run 10 miles first, then clean my entire house and the driveway and my neighbor's house until I get the courage to cold call. Yeah, man. Like, this is coming from a person that is a beast at sales, high ticket sales. He'll get on, but cold calling, you got to be very brutally honest with yourself and be like, listen, do I want to do this? It's that like I ain't got no shame in my game. If I know that someone else can get a better result than I can, knock yourself out, playboy. You know what I mean? So I would recommend figuring out what's realistic and then assessing whether you want to delegate or do it yourself for a period of time. Okay. Jay was like, I'd rather do run 10 miles before I cold call myself. So yeah. So and then again, the caveat that I want to emphasize is make sure you're delegating within your budget and then also understand all of the other things that come along with delegating to VAs, to lead mining pros. I think the benefits of lead mining pros is Nick does an amazing job of managing his cold callers, making sure their KPIs are up to standards in order for them to even stay on the team. And of course, if things are not going the way you projected, you can always just book a call with Nick and then go over any adjustments that are needed, or go come up with a game plan to get better results, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and dive into the exciting part, and this is where the real work begins. Okay. So once you generate the leads, what do you guys think is the most important part that we need to focus on in order to get traction and actually get some money in our pocket? After generating them, calling them, the whole 9 yards, what are ways that you guys have tried to sell deals? Carla said, get a buyer's list. Okay, that's part of it. What methods to get a buyer's list? Because that's where we're going. That's the direction that we're going. But what methods are you using to generate a buyer's list for the deals that you have?
Posting them on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace is one way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I put my deals on the MLS as kind of like a second week thing if I'm not getting traction. And I build my
Mm-hmm.
list that way.
Yep. And these options that I'm going to give you is going to take the same trajectory of most cost effective, and then and then I'm gonna graduate to the most expensive ones. Okay. But Chantel just took one of the ones, which is Facebook Marketplace, completely free. Okay. Facebook Marketplace is a good way to have buyers come to you and see what the appetite is for deals in the marketplace, um, for the specific deals that you have. Now, before we continue, I want to use this analogy and translate it to how you can apply it for business, right? So, me and my friends were watching the college national championship game last night. Super good game, by the way. And one of the things that I realized was whenever, and this goes for any sport, right? Especially sports that run plays, they go into the game already knowing these are the plays that we're running from quarter one all the way to quarter four, right? So they know exactly the sequence and they know exactly if this happens, these are the set plays that we're going to run for in this situation. And that's the exact same mindset that you have to have when you're running your real estate business, because you already have to know these are the plays that I'm going to run in order to get a deal sold. Oftentimes, analysis paralysis, obviously, we've all heard that. That comes from a lack of clarity of what to do when it comes to execute, right? So, a lot of times, especially people that are new coming into the business, they would finally get a seller to agree on their price and then immediately get stuck and be like, okay, what do I do now? Right. So, in order for that not to happen, you have to have super clear step by step, play by play instructions on what to do to maximize deal exposure. Okay. So, Facebook Marketplace is number one. And then the next alternative to that is MLS platforms, putting it on an MLS. If you partner with the realtor that has MLS access and then you work out a fee within them, you don't have to pay for, every single MLS listing that you get if you're partnering with the realtor. If you can't find a realtor that can pick up the phone in your local market, because realtors are very famous for not picking up the damn phone. So if you can't find a realtor that can pick up the phone, there's plenty of flat fee MLS listing services that you can use. They maybe charge you $99 per listing. $99 is like the industry standard that I've seen. And you can just pay per listing and expose your deal on the MLS. Okay. Facebook Marketplace, absolutely free. Partner with the realtor that has MLS access, communicate a compensation agreement between you and that realtor. You could pay them a flat fee after closing, or you could pay them a flat fee up front, either or you could do flat fee. Okay, I'm gonna bundle all three of those options in number one because you want to get eyes on the particular deal. And then you want to get buyers coming to you and saying, hey, I've seen this deal on X, Y, and Z platform. I'm very interested in making an offer. Here's my offer, right? The next place is other forms of digital platforms. We've had this gentleman come on and speak to us early last year when he first started this. And over the last couple of months, he's made a lot of improvements to his site. He actually changed the name. It used to be offmarket.com. and then he changed it to offa.com, OFFA.com. Y'all remember Ken, who came on? He's basically created a platform where it's almost like this is his exact words. It's going to sound funny, but this is the exact words. He's creating a tender for real estate. So he used to charge for it, but now he's, I guess, just posting it. He's allowed people to post their deals for free. And then he only gets paid if you find a buyer on his platform. So the concept that he has within his platform is if a buyer likes your deal, they'll swipe right. If they don't like your deal, they'll swipe left. Every time a buyer swipes right on your deal, you basically get matched with that buyer. And then you guys communicate, negotiate, do whatever it is that you need to do. And then you go from there. That is also a totally free like upfront cost, so you don't have to pay for it up front. But I think he does charge you like 1% of whatever you sell the property for on the back end. And then if you go on, I'll drop the link to his website after the call. But if you go on his website, he'll give you all of the information uh, about offer and then how much he gets charged or how much you get charged at the time of closing if he finds you a buyer. Okay. And then the next platform that goes into as far as digital platform, I showed you guys this on a couple calls ago, but I'll do a deeper dive into this. Is Dispo Genius. Dispo Genius is ran by Andy. I'm gonna butcher his last name wrong. And Andy has done a really good job of building out this platform to integrate with any GHL product. So if you have GHL, his software or his platform will integrate with any CRM. And then again, I will show you guys this at a later time. But you basically can use Dispo Genius. You put up an address, and then it will go ahead and give you all of the buyer info or all of the nearby buyers that have sold properties in that area within X amount of time frame. And then you can call them and text them right from your CRM. And then also send them the deals as well too. And because Dispo Genius is very expensive, of course, you can pay for it on your own. But the reason I'm bringing up Dispo Genius is because if you guys have either houses or sellers that you need help finding buyers for, please feel free to bring them on this call. And then because I'm already paying for Dispo Genius, I have no problem JVing with you, helping you find a buyer. And then I would actually like to do live prospecting calls for buyers on this call with you guys. But the only way it's going to work is if you're consistent in lead generation, generating your own leads with whatever marketing channel you're picking, and then bringing them to the call and saying, hey, I got this seller. Let's come up with the game plan to find a buyer. Okay. And then last part for deal exposure is direct outreach, circle prospecting, right? Going back to word of mouth, this is going to fall into the same category of word of mouth is you want to be very vocal about stuff that you have in your pipeline, stuff that you have in your inventory, and taking advantage of real estate meetups. Okay. Because the basic simple principle of getting deals sold is outside of having a solid buyers list, you want to get as many qualified eyes on your deal as possible in the shortest amount of time. And the simplest way to do that is having a mindset of one to many. You want to be able to find yourself in situations where you can be in one environment in front of many potential buyers. Make sense? And then from there, you need to explain the value of your deal, why it's a good deal in front of many people at a time. I think oftentimes people fall into the trap of thinking if they have a buyer's list and they just depend on email blasting and text blasting, they'll get some hits. While that while that may be true and it still works for some people, you still want to have one, a personalized approach, and then you also want to be realistic as well too. Buyers are very, very busy individuals. Okay. You are not the only one email and texting them and calling them about deals. They have other timelines, other many different things going on that are pulling at their attention. I think If Jay is still on here, he could probably speak to this because he's also, I believe, a buyer himself in Maryland. You're in Maryland, right, Jay?
Yeah.
There you go. So I don't know if you could speak on this real quick. If you have wholesalers sending you deals and things of that nature, but from a buyer's perspective, what are some of the things that catches your attention when wholesalers sell you deals? And then what are some of the things that be like, oh, okay, I'll get to it when I get to it when wholesalers sell you deals?
Yeah, the biggest issue is that we tend to get pretty bombarded with the same deal over and over again. So our biggest concern is this, are you actually direct to the seller? And
Hmm.
you'll know pretty quickly. I'll just ask a couple of questions like, so you're direct. Can I take a look at your contract? You can redact it. That's fine with me. I just want to make sure that you actually have this under contract before I go and start doing a bunch of analysis. That's the first thing
Hmm.
I ask. Most of the time, it's somebody that says, well, my partner has the contract or I'm working with someone. And so then I go and give a buy price and then they pretty much ghost me or they'll use my offer and they'll try to compete it with other investors.
Mm. Like they'll try to kind of like have like a bidding war between you and other buyers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then like 2 days later, they'll say, "Well, can you submit your highest and best?" And then you don't remember you spoke with them. But yeah, I think just being real with your buyers. Now, I will say, and because I also wholesale as well, in 2024, I did 65 transactions and I did it with only 7 buyers.
There you go.
In 2025, last year, we closed on 52 transactions and we did it with 4 buyers.
Wow.
So
Quantity over quality,
yeah, yeah. And so
or
actually,
or quality over quantity. I'm sorry.
there was a couple of transactions where I had a buyer on my list and they wouldn't give me the time of day, they wouldn't answer my calls. And then I met another wholesaler at a meetup and I was looking for for a particular buyer and he was good friends with that buyer. So he went,
Mm.
presented the deal and we split the fee. Sometimes it's all about proximity. Like if you're close with someone, they tend to really want to trust you. They'll probably see that deal in 10 other places, but if you present it and you give them confidence that this is a good opportunity and you underwrite it for them and just give them a good bird's eye view on it and they like you, they'll most likely buy it from you.
There you go.
It's never the
And
list.
I,
I had a CRM system in 2022 and 2023 with like 3,000 buyers in it. And I was spending more money uh, on the texting credits, the AI bots, and all that stuff than I did just picking up the phone and saying hello and how's the family, how's the kids? Hey, I got this property here. You have a couple minutes? I'd love to show it to you.
yeah. And you just said something that I want to emphasize so much is I think a lot of people underestimate the power of connections. Like they almost undermine the connections that they make and forget that it's a like relationship based business, right? So if you find one buyer, find one builder that's, communicative and gives you criteria, it doesn't make any logistical sense to be like, okay, let me put this criteria to the side and then start finding more buyers and not start building a relationship by even just sending them a couple, deals that you are either direct on or you get good referrals from, right? So this goes into kind of scaling smart because to Jay's point, the fact that you did 50 plus transactions and only 4 people, I mean, if you do the math on that, you're probably selling an average of, and I'm just spitballing, 10 to 12 deals each buyer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then that's a lot more of a quality approach. And it's really just focusing in on who are the people that can execute the best, keep their word, and then stay consistent enough for me to just continue sending them deals. Because if you have 4 to 7 solid builders or buyers, wherever, whatever market, whatever niche you're in land or wholesaling houses, there's really no need to kind of have 100 buyers on your list.
It's true. Yeah, no, you only need 5 or 6 buyers that'll really give you the time of day. You're going to get to the point where you built such a great relationship with someone that they'll even tell you, "Hey, let's go to lunch. Let me show you how to get started in this. Let me show you how I underwrite. And so they'll jump on a call with you. They'll underwrite. They'll show you exactly how they look at deals, and it makes you a much better, investor and a better buyer in the future when you're taking down your own properties.
Correct. And I think the spray and pray method that's sometimes perpetuated out there is what Jay is referring to, where it's just kind of like if you have a big list and you're just sending them, details about deals that you have half information on, that's not a good way to kind of gain traction and then also convert into contracts. Because all of this that we just went through builds on top of each other. If you don't have quality leads or deals to send, you're not going to be able to get to the finish line, because if it's junk in and junk out, it's just going to be the same perpetual cycle of being stuck. So you got to get really good at generating leads, training your eye on good opportunities, and then building the relationships necessary in order to go ahead and you know make the dots connect, whether that's through your own buyers or whether that's through JVing, referrals, agent outreach, whatever the case may be. It all starts with lead generation, right? And then vice versa. You can have all of the buyers in the world. If you have no deals to send them, it renders useless. You know what I mean? And that's oftentimes what I see in groups and in other real estate communities is there's two types of people, or there's three types of people. There's people that have all of the buyers and no seller leads. Then there's people that have all of the seller leads and no buyers. And then there's people that are just not doing anything. They're not talking to sellers or buyers. So you have to be really good at one, leveraging, your resources, leveraging your connections, and then be very intentional about understanding your playbook, right? You definitely got to understand what are my steps of execution. So that way I know exactly what to do when I find a situation. If you're a person that's just all sellers and not worrying about buyers, your playbook, and I'm just using this as an example, your playbook needs to be, let me collect 3 to 5 solid JV partners and send them my deals every time I get something under contract or I have a good opportunity. Okay. If you're a person that's all buyers and no sellers, it's in reverse. You need to find 3 to 5 solid individuals that are really, really good at talking to sellers, build a relationship so they can start sending you deals and you guys can both close. Right. And then if you're a person that's in the middle and it's not really taking advantage of either one, you got to ask yourself, how can I position myself to have maximum leverage and get beneficial results? Okay. And then just be very intentional about leveraging this community. Jay is also a good resource. Jay, do you have your own community or you just do it like?
No, I actually just have like a YouTube channel. I do have a
Gotcha.
community, but it's for like uh mastermind coaches and high level sales. We're talking
Gotcha.
if you have a program and it's 20 grand or more, I'm pretty good at that. But no, yeah,
Gotcha.
on my YouTube, I pretty much give everything for free. Yeah, I don't
Sweet.
have a community.
If you want to drop your YouTube link, just post it in the comments right here. But yeah, just be very intentional about understanding the resources out there, how to maximize those resources, and then obviously connect the dots as efficiently as you can, because that's what it boils down to, right? Um, there's a lot of things that distract people from execution, and it's shiny object syndrome. So your CRM or whatever, marketing channel, all of that is a byproduct of good execution, right? There are people out there that just have a spreadsheet, a phone, and a laptop, and they can run circles around people that have the bells and whistles of CRMs and stuff like that. And then from a strategic standpoint, you have to kind of be in the mindset of, okay, I know how to do these things, but what's the most efficient way to get my desired results based on my current schedule, based on my time commitments, and based on my budget? You have to make decisions based on tangible data, because sometimes people make decisions based off, you know, oh, I feel like this is what everyone is saying. Let me just go with that. You know what I mean? And I forgot the exact word of or the exact wording of this quote, but the person who said this is crazy, but I'm like, damn, I did not expect a powerful quote coming from this person. But Tekashi 69 was basically like, people will rather be right. Sorry, people will rather be wrong in a group than be right by themselves. And obviously there's trends. Trends will always be a thing, but you have to start thinking a little bit more strategically on how can I use all of the resources that are out there and then maximize them to fit my process, my lifestyle, my budget, and my bandwidth. You know what I mean? And then obviously education and learning curve is a big part of putting all of these things together and then making a repeatable process out of it. So yeah, and then that's pretty much it. Just wanted to simplify it, paint the full picture of lead generation channels, pick one or two that you can stay consistent on, and then develop a playbook to find maximum exposure for your deals, right? Facebook Marketplace, MLS listings, whether it's through a realtor or a MLS platform. I only use these ones in Florida, but it's Beycom, Beycome. They're pretty good. 99 bucks. You do everything online, and within a day, your stuff is posted online. And I just did one today, or I'm sorry, yesterday, and it got approved today. So that was relatively quick. And yeah, just hopefully I got this deal for 25, listing it for 37, and then hopefully we find a buyer that can close relatively quickly. But then it's just a matter of rinse and repeat, right? So now we can open it up to Q&A. Any questions about anything that we went over, or if you need any feedback about anything that you need help with in your business.
Hi, Francisco. I just want to know,
Yeah.
what's the last site you mentioned you put a property on?
Beycom. Let me put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Beycome.
BE or COME?
Beycome. Yeah, let me put it in the chat right
Okay.
here.
I think I misspelled it. I was trying to put it in there for you.
Yeah, Beycom. I don't know the right pronunciation, but
Thank
Beycom.
you.
No problem.
I have a quick question. Okay, so for Jay, you put in there brokerlist.com. Have you used that or know anybody that's used it and got good results?
Yeah, I've used them. I do a lot of business in North Carolina and in West Virginia. And yeah, I've used them. So what they do is you pay like $150, I believe, or $100 depending on the area. And they set you up with an agent that works with investors in that specific area. Beycom works well, but Beycom does work well in Florida. I use it in Florida.
Yeah.
Even though Brokerless is in Florida, I use Beycom because I like their structure better. And I think they allow a little bit more photos and a better description. It depends, the pricings are within $100 and $150, I believe, for most packages, and that's all you need.
Yeah, Brokerless is really good. That's Jack, right? You talked to Jack at Brokerless?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Jack is a funny individual, dog. but yeah, Brokerless is good. And then Beycom, however you pronounce it, is good as well too. Now keep this in mind as well too, because there was 1 month where I was like, all right, Jack, you got to start coming up with like a returning customer discount or something. Because there was 1 month where I sent like 11 listings for him. And remember, it's 99 bucks per listing. So it does get really expensive if you try to, if you start doing volume, stuff like that. So just be mindful of that. And then try to like diversify. I'm gonna say it's very hard, but realtors are like allergic to answering the phones. Like I had one realtor go out, take drone photos for me, and did not answer the phone to list the property. It was like the most weirdest thing ever. I'm like, you sent me the drone photo, but you're not picking up the phone to list the. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, depending on my patience level and what time of week it is, I'm like either realtor or just pay the 99 bucks and list it and then just get it over with. So.
Another question for Jay. Now you said a lot of your information is on YouTube. So the method to where you were able to get those 4 to 6 buyers, do you demonstrate? Is that one of your YouTube videos, or are you able to share how you did that?
Yeah, I can share. I think it's probably somewhere on YouTube, but it depends on, are you doing houses? Are you doing land, or what are you doing primarily?
Land.
I think with land, you got a hack here. You can go. So are you focusing in like one county all over? Like where are you pretty niche down or
Well, I was trying to look in the outskirts. I live in Fort Worth, Texas.
okay.
So I was going to look on the outskirts of the DFW area.
So what I did to build my buyers list in North Carolina, I also built it in Florida and in West Virginia. Every single every single county has a builder's directory. They pay $500 to $1,000 a year to be on a directory. And if you just type up you know, whatever that county is where you're at, the specific counties, um, home builder association, it'll give you phone number, email, pretty much everything, social security number of these builders because they want to be a preferred builder, and they pay a lot of money to be part of these associations. The
Mhm.
directory is free. You if you want to be on it, if you want to be on the directory, you have to be verified. Because I tried just I'll pay $800. I don't care. They're like, well, give me a two or three properties that you did in the last 36 months and give me your last like a your floor plan and whatnot. So they're pretty strict when you get into to become a builder as far as that directory. So I would definitely call them first.
Okay. Okay.
I'm assuming you're doing like infill lot development, you're looking
Yeah,
to
that
build
kind of thing.
one-offs. Yeah,
Yeah.
highly recommend that. I think that's the best way to start.
Okay. Oh, somebody asked the questions in the comment in the chat
Um,
room.
what does your conversation sound like with the seller to let you put it on the market? I'm very direct and very, like straightforward. I really don't like to use word salad a lot when it comes to it. But pretty much what I just tell the seller is like, hey, we're going to be leveraging our marketing and negotiation skills to maximize exposure on this particular deal. And we do use the MLS in order to attract a ready and willing buyer to get this to the closing table. We'll facilitate the whole transaction. We'll make sure EMD is deposited, et cetera, et cetera. And then just make sure that it aligns with what it could sell for on the market. You know what I mean? If they want, you know, 20, 40, 80, $100,000 above market value, it's not going to work. But just setting expectations is, the best way that I've gotten to do it. And even this lady that I just recently did, I just let her know, I'm like, hey, is it a matter of time and convenience for you? Or is it a matter of, wanting to get the most amount of money and then waiting and being patient for that? And then based on, their needs is how I deliver the solution to their problem. There's some people that maybe word it a little bit differently or maybe have a different approach. Jay, I don't know if you approach it differently, but it's I would probably tell them up front then or disclose it to them and then not let it be a surprise as opposed to trying to finesse it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that I when I'm talking to people, I firmly believe that it's a one call decision. We're either going to do business today or you're going to tell me to get lost. And I always tell them, when they tell me, I'm going to have to think about it. How many times have we said that as humans, as people? And it ended up being no. We were just too scared to hurt the other person's feelings, or we just weren't direct with that person. So it's always best to be direct. Now, do you go, if you're in a competitive market, do you go flat out first thing you say, hey, I'm a wholesaler, I'm going to make money in between? I wouldn't, if they ask you that question, you never answer it unless you have to ask another question. What did you mean by that? I'm sorry, wholesaler, help me out here. Are you just worried that I'm not going to close on the deal, or are you worried about, has this ever happened to you where somebody locks it up and they don't close on it? Is that your concern? And then let them open up and let them tell you exactly what they're looking for. You don't just go out and just tell people, because you don't want to put a label on yourself if you don't know exactly what the exit strategy is.
Yeah. I'm not.
I wanted to touch base on that simplicity you talked about earlier. Keep things
Hmm.
simple. Keep things.
Yeah.
I spent so much money on CRM systems and just doing so much, and it ended up getting me on a lot of do not disturb lists and stuff. And be very mindful of
Hmm.
the people you talk to. Everything's keep it super simple. When was the last time you guys have ever written with one of the, like, I write with pencils, guys. Why do I write with pencils? Because a pencil, the most annoying part about writing with a pencil is you got to go and sharpen this thing. And so I want to make sure that everything I put on a piece of paper is worth it because I don't like consistently sharpening my pencil. What happens with pens is we write so much that sometimes our hand disconnects from our brain and we end up losing all that information in us. So I like to write in acronyms. I like to use I like to get things as shortened as possible and memorize things through chunks.
Hmm.
I don't know where I was going with that. I just thought it was a really good tip.
No, no, I think that's super essential as well too, because I think when we get caught up in the shiny object syndrome, now again, this is coming from a person very similar to Jay. I've spent a lot of money on CRMs, tools, and all the other stuff, and then it wasn't until I realized I've become a tech person by accident. I did not, I don't, I, prior to 5, 6 years ago, I didn't have a technical background at all. I just so happened to go down the rabbit hole, and then one day everything clicked, and I was like, oh, this is how technology works. So the conclusion that I came to was all CRMs are universally this. They all use the same universal principles. The only thing that's different is the functionality and the UI, the user interface.
Mhm.
But everything else is universally the same. And then once I got really good at, this is another like hack that I recommend you guys, tap into is you got to find out what is your process to making things click for you, right? Because before I did used to struggle with CRMs and be like, oh man, this thing is not working. Let me try another one, right? And then it wasn't until I realized like, oh, the correlation between things is like, okay, now let me take this very big complex CRM and then focus on the parts and the functionalities that I need in order to kind of like run efficiently and then know like what dots connect where. And it took a lot of time and money, you know what I mean? But then after a while, I'm like, okay, this is the simplest way to achieve my desired result. And then that only comes from clarity. Whenever there's a lack of clarity, there's going to be abundance of confusion. And you have to be very, very clear on your desired outcome to know how to put things together to get the desired result. And it's more or less about it's more about the skills and the expertise as opposed to the tools that you use, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because there's technicalities and nuances to anything and everything. Very similar to how there's some builders that build wood frame, and then there's some builders that can build steel frame. But it's just a matter of like your expertise and your skill set that go along with it. And yeah, that's just pretty much you got to find your competitive edge and learn how to exploit that. And then for some random reason, God decided my competitive edge, the technology. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me learn how to leverage technology to still be simple and effective, but not complex and doesn't really achieve anything. You know what I mean? So that would be my recommendation. Simplify things, find your competitive edge, really find out what transferable skills do you have from your 9 to 5, your W-2, your background, your college experience, and then how can that translate that will separate you from the bunch? Because if you're doing everything that everyone else is doing, it's going to be very difficult to kind of, achieve a high level of success if you're just a carbon copy of other people's process, but not mindset. So, in short, what I wanted to end off with is making sure that, in these group sessions, my goal, especially for this year, being that this is going on year 2 of running this group, I want this year to be more so about making progress and getting small wins, no matter what that may look like. Right. And I think the best way to achieve small wins is getting closer to achieving one proof of concept and then also mastering skills that you can kind of turn into your own competitive advantage. Because I could sit here and talk for months, weeks, and years about every single solitary thing that I do in my business, but everything that I do now is a byproduct of bumping my head thousands and thousands of times and realizing, okay, in order for this to work, these are the things I got to do. One, two, three, four, five. You know what I mean? And then you got to, again, find stuff that works for you and find a system, schedule, and process that aligns with you. Like, let me tell you a quick story. I reached out to Jay, a couple of days ago. I was like, hey, can you do a sales call training on Wednesday? His schedule does not allow for calls when it past a certain time. And you know why that works so beautifully is because he creates boundaries that makes it easy for him to say yes to certain things and no to certain things. And that's the same thing that you got to do in business. Only make decisions once you have very clear evidence direction of what makes you comfortable, what doesn't break the bank, what doesn't give you headaches, et cetera, et cetera. You got to get boundaries that make it very easy to say yes, very easy to say no. And that just one small example is something that needs to be translated to every part of the business, in my opinion. So just wanted to share that. Hopefully, Jay, you don't mind. But yeah.
Well, that was well said. Always have boundaries. We tend to want to do so much, and that's the problem in this business is we can't please everyone, and that we want to please everyone. And the thing is, where do we draw the hard line, or else you're just going to turn this into another W-2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jay, are you
yeah.
with houses or land or what is your niche?
My niche is land. Yeah, I work with I probably supplied one of the largest pool inventories of single family homes in North Carolina this year. I know I've definitely helped about 50 new homes be built last year.
Wow, that's amazing. So how do we get in touch with you?
I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Just go on my YouTube. My number's on there. My email's on there. I think I'm gonna give you my website. My cell phone's on the website, and you can just learn a little bit more about me there. Another thing is, from what I've learned, is have realistic expectations on marketing for your area. Now, every area is different, right? So if, a friend of yours says, I only spent $1,000 in Timbuktu, but you're in like a very competitive, high volume market, you can't expect to hit a home run with that same marketing budget in Timbuktu. So ask around in your networking meetups, hey, how much are you typically spending on direct mail? How much are you typically spending on a budget for cold calling? Ask around, and you're going to notice the people that are actually doing solid business, they'll be very similar as far as a budget. So that way you have an understanding of, hey, this is how much I really should be, putting towards a budget for me to be able to do more business. It's unrealistic in one area versus, and even where you're at, you're right outside of DFW, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm in Fort Worth, but I want to do those outside areas because there's a lot of growth here.
So right in Fort Worth is going to be a little bit higher than right outside of Fort Worth, right? Where it's in the path of growth. And I always like to work in the path of growth. So I like that you're looking on the exterior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then in closing, guys, what are some of the topics that you guys feel will be like beneficial to kind of getting you guys traction on either end of the business, whether it be more sellers or whether it be buyers, whatever the case may be? What are some of the topics that would be beneficial to give you guys actionable results in your business?
I liked how you started to. Yeah, I liked how you what you did today, because I was actually dealing with these matters. And it's really interesting you talked about them, and because you want the realistic, it's a lot of hype and fluff out there. It's so much, and you made it easy to navigate. Now I understand. I've got to, have my system, schedule, process, set boundaries, everything that you talked about. So I really appreciate that. And it all goes into, you hear about wholesaling, but they don't talk about the business aspect of it, right? Like, how do you run a wholesaling business? What do you do? What do you need to have in place?
Oh yeah.
So I like those kind
And
of conversations.
absolutely. And I think, a good testament of implementing all of those things is
Mhm.
finding yourself in situations where you need help to get to the next stage. Hey, I have this seller that wants to move forward. Here's a situation. What do I do next? Right. And then you learn in
Mhm.
bits and pieces and not, the full process all at one time. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like
Okay.
if I'm being vulnerable right now, like for example, one of the things that I'm challenging myself to learn and get out of my comfort zone is learning entitlements in big tracts of land. Right. I don't know the process of getting a 22-acre parcel, getting it under contract, subdividing it, doing master planning and doing. I told the developer that reached out to and asked for help. I'm like, I'm gonna just learn from observing. I'm not going to front and be like, yeah, I know exactly what to do. I'm gonna just take it
Mhm.
one stage at a time. And then the next stage that we got to do is find an attorney that can drop an agreement between the seller and the developer to allow us to go through the process of master planning. And then after that, I'm a, create feedback loops, analyze, okay, this is what this means, this is what this means, this is what I do in this situation, and then move on to the next stage. Right. But just focus in small increments. Don't
Mhm.
think you have to know all of the answers,
Yeah.
but just find yourself in situations or, be intentional about putting yourself in situations where you need to ask for help in order to get to the next stage. Right. And then just start putting the pieces together and then just, compounding that. But that's why I want to encourage you guys to, be very vocal about things that you guys need help with, especially in this group. And then that way we can bring you guys the resources, the people, the know-how. I don't know everything. I'm always constantly learning, but I always want to make sure that, as much as I learn and grow, that I pass that along to you guys. And
That's what I
then
appreciate.
most importantly, I'm more care about you guys being the beneficiaries of implementation,
Mhm.
not
Yeah,
the beneficiaries of, just information overload. So,
that works. That's why I
oh
love
yeah,
being on here. So much value.
no problem.
Yeah.
Sweet. So let me know what you guys want to come up with. You can put it in the chat. Obviously, you can, if you DM me on Mighty Networks or email me, you can let me know. But this will what again, my main goal is to make this group more prosperous from the standpoint of implementation, right? I want each and every one of you guys to get tangible results that give you that spark to be like, I get it now. And it took me probably like 7, 10 deals to be like, oh damn, I get everything. Now, it's like an awakening, right? But
Mhm.
once things click, now it's just a matter of like, okay, and then you see it in certain people too. This is the last thing, and then we can wrap up. Sometimes all it takes is somebody to like make something click, and then now it's just kind of like you just obsessed with it naturally to the
Yeah.
point where it's like, you know. And then sometimes people get the proof of concept and just be like, oh, it's nice making $10,000 every, couple deals or whatever. And it's a leisure thing. It doesn't necessarily become a lifestyle or a consistency thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you just have to kind of figure out like, okay, what's going to make it click to the point where it allows me to be consistent, continue growing, and then go from there. So yeah. Ashley said automations. Perfect.
Mhm.
Ashley, DM me on Mighty Networks and let me know what specific automations you want. Thank you for bringing that up because I'm going to start a series called Things You Didn't Know You Could Automate from a simplistic standpoint because a lot of times people overcomplicate automations and automations don't work in a bad process.
Mhm.
So you got to make sure you define your process first, and then automation will take care of the rest. Campaign follow up timelines, perfect, sweet. They said conversations. Conversation is definitely going to be a big one.
Mhm.
Um, I'm
That
actually
is.
yes.
That is.
One of my goals for this year is to improve on communication. There's a book that I'm going to dedicate reading. It's called Communicating with idiot. Is it communicating with idiot? It's in my garage. Hold on, let's see. Oh, surrounded by idiots. The four types of human behavior, and how to communicate with each and every one of them.
I got the book. So when you
Yeah.
said something about it before I grabbed the book, I haven't started it yet. I only had it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to dedicate reading that book like it's my Bible because let me tell you something. There are different types of people in this world, and each one of them have their own different things that make them click in conversations. Um, so learning how to communicate with conversations and different types of people, that's definitely also something that can be talked about as well too. Sweet. Alrighty, guys. So we can go ahead and wrap up for today. I think today was a very productive session. Next week, I will try to kind of like brainstorm some things that can, allow us to be some interactive. I really want to put you guys in a position where you guys get some wins. So whether it's that, on either side of the business, whatever the case may be, next week, one of the things I want to challenge you guys is bring a situation that you either need help. I'll be more than happy to do live seller calls or finding a buyers for any one of your deals, either or. You know what I mean? So next week, let's try to figure out a way where we can kind of have a very productive meeting that gives you progress in any type of in any form of fashion in your business.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, Jay.
No problem. All right, guys. Have a good rest of your week, and I will see you guys next Tuesday, same time, same place.
Thank you all.
All righty.